Michelle here with Hydrolife, and it's time to get real. Hence the reason why I took the mask off, because I really want to make sure that I'm stressing my point on the situation that we have right now, especially with the new growers coming into the collective. I know that we're going to have a lot of new cannabis growers, especially here in the state of Michigan, where I live, the Arctic tundra. We're going to have a lot of new growers, and I feel it's important to get a message out about water consumption as a collective. So welcome to my channel. It's been a while, I know, but I've had to go through a major integration process. I had to really step back and take a look at myself and question the message that I was sending out there. I think a lot of people were misconstrued on the Hydrolife, my frog emblem that's catching cash. The message in that is that when the water's gone, are we going to be able to eat the cash? Are we going to be able to eat the gold? It wasn't about catching a bunch of cash to profit on. Although, cash helps. But there is going to come a time, and why I decided to make this video and really talk about our water scenario here. Of all this water on this great big blue ball, only 1% of it is usable. And by that I mean potable, drinkable. We have a lot of water out there, but not all of it is available for consumption, for us to drink, for our plants, our animals, or ourselves as human beings. And with that said, our water is an element that's in our body. It's in our blood, it's in our tears, it's in our flesh. I believe we're made up of about 80% of water, if I'm not mistaken. Hell, I could be, and if I am, feel free to correct me. My email's in the description box below. My rhythm is a little reckless, and I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm not here to promote any product or to pick on anyone in particular when it comes to the water usage. As I will be discussing, I heard a story from my neighbors that they've got friends that live out in California, and they were collecting rainwater because I guess their showers are on 2-minute timers. The water situation out there is so bad that after 2 minutes your water shuts off. Now, I don't know if that happens in Beverly Hills or outside of there, but from the story that they were telling me, it's on a 2-minute timer. Water bills are astronomical, and therefore they were collecting rainwater in their rain bucket outside to feed their vegetables that they were growing to try to self-sustain. They were fined for that because apparently the water belongs to the state. So yeah, that was an interesting story. And for those of you that want limited water supply and time showers, California is the place to go. I wouldn't recommend it right now at this juncture. So at this point, I also heard another story that really got to me, and it was about growers out in California once again. And like I said, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but when you hear stories like this, it's heart-wrenching, especially considering that, I don't know, for those of you that have children or grandchildren and you're concerned about what's going to happen in the future, it blows my mind that people are out there watering their yards, their 20-acre yards and on their estates without growing a single thing that's sustainable. People, we don't care about your yards. How about you grow something? If you're going to be out there watering your yard, grow something sustainable. Don't waste our water. We could give a shit about your yard. Just saying. Also, the new growers that are out there and they're taking their bottles or they're dumping their nutrients outside, that goes in our soil, our rivers, our lakes. Be mindful of that. And if you can't be mindful of that, then you should not be growing. Know your carbon imprint, know your grow, and have a plan for that, so that at least you can lighten the carbon imprint that you're making on our society. But for those growers out there in California that were throwing their bottles into some field, disgusting. Okay, you definitely should not be growing. And the reason they're doing that is when it was medical marijuana, you know, the illegal grows would do that, and they wouldn't throw the bottles in their trash or recycle them in fear of getting caught for not having a license to grow. So they would just go dump them anywhere. Disgusting. You know, take responsibility. I definitely don't want to educate anyone to grow if they're going to go and do something like that. Okay, and that's where I had to step back and take a look at myself and go, what am I doing? Really, what am I doing? And I had to ask myself what it means to step forward. What it means to step forward and direct that. Okay? So at this juncture, I'm challenging everyone to a game of chess that's played off the board. Okay? Think 2 and 3 steps ahead of your carbon imprint that you're putting on our society and the generations to follow. Because we are in a limited water supply. And I know they're not talking about it on the news, but they should be. I'd rather hear about things like that versus, you know, who someone's sleeping with today, what they're wearing, whether they got on red bottom shoes, which is, what is that exactly? But to me, that's petty compared to what we really should be talking about. Now, if there's anyone out there that has any idea on how to convert the salt water into fresh water, I would really love to hear from you. My email's in the description box below, and I would really look forward to that. So I just want to put that in there as well. I know I talked about our water usage, and you know, a good example of that would be Ethiopia. I mean, they are in a dire situation out there where without the humanitarian aids and efforts, you could actually add a couple levels to the emergency of what they're experiencing in Ethiopia. And this has been going on for a long time. I mean, it's no surprise we're in drought, but we will soon be to follow if we're not aware of the imprint that we're making, or you know, just take responsibility for your usage. Don't leave your water run while you're, you know, out watching, you know, the Kardashians do their makeup and you've got your shower running. I mean, things like that. Little things can make a big difference, I believe. So, as promised, I'm going to talk about light and yield. And when we're talking about light and yield, it's important to know that yield is based on light. Now, of course, the best light available is the sunshine, you know. But, you know, for those of you that live here in Michigan, you can't always grow, well, you especially can't grow cannabis outdoors year-round. It's way too cold and just wouldn't work out, unfortunately. Damn it. However, I think it's really important to know, especially for the people who live here in Michigan, about kilowatt hours. Because when you're speaking light and yield, the first thing that you want to know, the very first thing that you want to know is, what are your yield needs? I mean, what do you expect out of your grow? What are you looking for? Are you looking for a ½ pound a month? Are you looking for, you know, a ½ pound every 3 months? 2 ounces? You know, you really know what your grow expectations are before you get into it. And then that way, when you talk to somebody, or you know, or you're going to get help, or your lights, or you're setting up your grow, you will know what you need. Okay, especially light, when it comes to light. Now, when I say yield is based on light, let's say you have 300 watts. You have 300 watts in a 4x4. You're going to get, if we're talking about cannabis, you're going to get a ½ ounce yield off 300 watts, because yield is based on light. So regardless of whether you have 4 plants in that 3x3 or you have 1 plant, if you have 300 watts, you will get a couple ounces at best. Okay, and that brings up another point I want to make. I see all these kits being sold online and all of this, and they've got like a 2x2 tent with a 600 watt sodium halide bulb. I assure you that if you put a 600 halide bulb, a 600 watt, excuse me, halide bulb in a 2x2 tent, you're gonna kill all your plants. It's way too much heat, way too much light for that small space. Okay. Now we were talking kilowatt hours, because here in the state of Michigan, if you go over anything over 3,100 kilowatt hours, they're going to come knocking at your door. Hello, do you have a business license? So be prepared for that as well. So when I'm talking about that, let's talk about lights. Sodium metal halide. If you have a 1,000 watt sodium metal halide bulb and it's plugged into the wall, you are pulling 1,000 watts from the wall. Okay, and what that averages out to in kilowatt hours is, okay, 1,000 watts burning for 24 hours equals 10 kilowatt hours. So let's say you got 3, that's 30 kilowatt hours a day times 30. Now add the 65 to 75 kilowatt hours that you're using on a daily basis just as a regular small household. So keep that in mind when you're considering which lights you're going to be purchasing for your grow. I personally am in favor of LEDs because you can have a 1,500 watt LED and only be pulling 7 from the wall. And yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So just a little advice there. A lot of people are big on these new ceramic metal halide bulbs. However, they are very hot. I don't care what they say. I had 2 of them and I sent them back. I truly did. Way too hot and way too much energy pulled from the source, the wall. So let's say you have a 1,000 watt light in a 5x5. Okay, let's talk about the 2x2 with the 600 watt, the kit and all that. No, that's not gonna work. Okay, that won't work on your best day. If you've got a 2x2 tent, you can run a 300 watt light bulb in, or 300 watt light in there, and like I said, maybe get 2 ounces of cannabis. When we're talking about cannabis, if you're in a 4x4 tent, you can run a 600 watt light in there and produce a 1/4 pound. All right, but I wouldn't run anything over that, especially if you're running halide bulbs. Now LED, that's another story that we can get into at a later time. So 1,000 to 1,200 watts, a 5x5, and that will yield you what, a 1/2 pound per 1,000 watts, give or take. So with all of that said, mind your carbon imprint, know your grow, and know your kilowatt hours, right? So, and I'll talk to you soon.